So, we are this time a little more properly prepared. What I mean by that is my car talks have been approaching the 35. That's going to piss me off. Oh, let's get this over here. And not only just hanging off my shoulder, let's put it back over here. My car talks have been approaching like the 35-minute mark, which is a little bit on the skeptical side of educational videos in terms of duration and I guess you would call it attention. Most people's attention span is like 8 seconds, so let's just get into it. Today, back. I think I've trained back so much, but it's only because so today's Tuesday. Yes, today's supposed to be chest, but it's now my fourth time skipping chest. So if you guys remember, like whatever this was, 3-ish weeks ago, I told you guys about that shoulder injury I got back in like November, December. Basically, finally it healed, and then we were moving, doing this house flip thing. I didn't stretch, and I kind of tweaked it again. So instead of being an idiot this time and just kind of training through it and letting it get worse, I said I'm going to take off 4 chest days. So with my split, which is chest, back, arms, legs, repeat, no rest days, basically 4 chest days would equate to 16 calendar days. So this Friday, today's Tuesday, like the 25th or 24th, something like that, August 20 something, or 27th actually, it's the 27th. This Friday, so 3 days from now, whatever, will be my first time training chest in over 16 days. So my chest feels good. It feels fully recovered. I'm not going to throw around a lot of weight. Kind of like what I talked about in yesterday's video. Not to get off topic, but oh yeah, we do have a surprise guest. First surprise guest of today's video is C4 Starburst. I already recorded me opening it and drinking it, but I didn't like the video, so I deleted it. This flavor is pretty good. These performance drinks are sweet. Literally, this one will specifically say performance, so you can't see it. Sport and fitness performance, which obviously just means 200 milligrams of caffeine in here. You got some, honestly, I don't even really see what they're advertising outside of caffeine. No artificial flavors and no sugar, but that's pretty typical. I'm sure there's other odds and ends in here, but at the end of the day, it's a good performance beverage. Second guest is actually in the back seat, which is my wife, as I've talked about in about every single video thus far. She's not back there by choice. She's back there because where else am I gonna put my tripod? I'm joking, but I'm being. She took one for the team because I needed to record, so she's sitting in the front seat. I mean, she honestly, you probably could have sat up here. You just would have had to have your legs wrapped around the tripod and then, whatever. She's in the back, which is to me hashtag support. Even that's literally hashtag Uber. She's literally sitting in the back on the way to the gym. Because you guys don't realize we typically go to the gym every day together, but anytime I record, she just doesn't go, or she goes someplace else, or goes on her own time because I'm recording. But this time I was like, let's just try to figure out how to record while you're in the car. So now she's in the back. Anyways, today is back. Technically supposed to be chest. Skipping these last 4 chest days has really screwed me up, but I told you guys in yesterday's video how important it is to be receptive to your body. It doesn't matter what plan you go on, what diet coach you hire, what training split you're on. All these things are great, fine, and dandy, or who you talk to. At the end of the day, the number one most beneficial, I guess you could call it, tool to use in your health journey, whether you just work out occasionally just to kind of stay in a little bit of decent shape, or if you take it a little more seriously like me, or if you're like a professional bodybuilder and you're like fucking balls to the walls, regardless of where you're at, the best tool you'll have is to listen or learn to listen to your own body. My shoulder impingement is to me not doing that because when I kicked up those 120s, keep in mind, I talked about this actually in my video. I made a video earlier today that you guys will see before this one ever releases, but it was a quick little 10-minute video in the kitchen, and I was showing the difference of having like a pack of ramen noodles. If you have like 530 calories in that pack versus you could have 2 eggs, a cup of blueberries, an apple, 2 no-carb tortillas, a packet of the chicken Starkist, an energy drink or performance drink, whatever you want to call it, and then a protein bar, all of that, and an apple if I didn't say that already, all for and a cup of white rice, basmati rice. All of that is the same amount of calories you're going to get from one pack of ramen noodles. So in a cutting context, when you're losing weight, you don't want to necessarily focus on just swapping the foods, but you want to focus on swapping the volume. So for example, whatever, I'm not going to repeat it. You watch the other fucking video if you want to learn what I talked about. Anyways, so today's back, but skipping these last 3 chest day, or today's technically the fourth, or not technically, it is the fourth and final chest day to skip in this. You could call it a 16-day retreat. You could, you could call it a 16-day chest hiatus. Some people may call it a 4-week retreat of chest. I just simply call it listening to my shoulder. To be completely honest, I'm really listening to the girl in the back seat, because every time I train chest, she's telling me take, and some of that's ego, some of it is I don't feel like taking time off, but you don't want to have a permanent shoulder injury because that will throw you out. A back injury and a shoulder injury and a knee injury, those are career enders. But anyways, today is back. It's nothing fucking out of the usual. I'm going to start off with either cable rows or lat pull downs, and then whatever one I start with, I'll do the opposite one. It just depends. So when it comes to a variety in your training, it's not just using different movements and different machines and different apparatuses, as it were, but it's also using. You can use the same machine the whole time for your back workout, but use a different handle. You can use the W bar, you can use the V bar, you can use a single arm, you can use a straight bar, you can use one of those little rope tethers, you can use a single hand, like the actual ropes that you like tricep extensions with, all on one machine. But you can also switch it up and do 2 arms at a time. You can train unilateral movements or unilaterally. You can do drop sets, supersets, trisets, all those sorts of things. So if you just have a little bit of knowledge at your disposal, or even just you can look around the gym and see, hey, that guy's bigger than me. What is he doing? I'm just going to do that. When you follow that methodology enough, of course, you don't want to follow that guy's training, I guess you could say rep for rep, because he's obviously catered his repertoire of exercises to what works for him or her and their body type. But if you look at other people in the gym are doing, then just try them. Over time, you're going to find out what you like, what you don't like, what feels good, and what doesn't feel good. And then you can start to kind of, this isn't something that just takes weeks, this takes months and years and stuff to really learn what works for your body. But honestly, the amount of progress you can make in a year of taking the gym seriously. Now, like I always say in previous videos, the gym isn't my whole life, but the part of my life that it has, I take seriously. So I'm not a competitive bodybuilder or a powerlifter, and I'm not out there bullshitting on whatever. But bodybuilding, fitness, health, dieting, all these things are important to me. So I have the philosophy of how you do everything. How you do anything is how you do everything. So if you half-ass the gym, you're probably half-assing your diet. You're probably half-assing your job. You're probably half-assing your relationship with other things in the mix as well. So you can't really find someone who goes above and beyond at work. They're perfect on time, never late. They don't miss breaks. Their adherence is on top of it. They're the best leader. All the things are great. But then you go home and their house is a mess. Their car is broken down. The triple that crap. It's usually not how it goes. But whatever. We're not getting the psychology or the dichotomy of man. Let's just go back to back. Right, Ravine? So today is back again. I've been training my other muscle groups. I've been just skipping, instead of skipping chest day and just having it be a rest day, I've just been skipping to whatever's next. So I've been doing basically not chest, back, arms, legs, like literally back to back to back. I haven't taken any rest days. So like my back is not fatigued at all, luckily. But so if I train back today, whatever. Over the last couple of weeks, I've been having like 2 days of rest in between, and then I hit that muscle group again. But it's just while my shoulder's recovering, so it feels pretty good. When I supinate it and kind of bring it up to the side, it's a little bit tender, so there's got to be some permanent damage in there. We'll have to address that at a later date. Maybe, I don't know. We'll have to address that at another time, but I'm not going to do it now because why would I? Anyways, back again. So when it comes to training, there's always different ways to switch it up, right? I gotta make sure I'm not going too fast. I just got pulled over yesterday, and I'm not about to get pulled over today. Just hope that there's both cops looking out the window. I have horrible PTSD because I got pulled over yesterday for speeding. No, I got pulled over yesterday for speeding. Oh yeah, I didn't even talk about that. Pull over for speeding. My plates were expired, and I didn't have my driver's license, and somehow I was able to use my linguistic skills, and the cop let me go, no ticket at all. So I went first thing this morning, got my plates renewed. But anyways, no one gives a shit about that. Let's talk about back in terms of variety of training, which is why I say, like, if you're that type of person who says, oh, for legs I only do back squats. Well, that's cool and all if you like it and it works for you, but eventually you're going to want to switch it up because your body's going to get used to that movement path, that type of exercise, and eventually you're just going to plateau. So you have back squats, you got front squats, you got sissy squats, you got hack squats, you got leg press, standing leg press, vertical leg press, seated leg press, the one where you lay on your back and you're like upside down leg press. You got walking lunges. You got so many pressing movements for your legs. To sit there and say, well, I only do one because it feels good. Like, I get where you're coming from in terms of, oh, it does feel good. But just because it feels good doesn't mean you got to keep doing it. Always try to switch it up. And a lot of times, even going back to something I haven't done in a while, like I talked about yesterday after legs, I've been doing unilateral for leg extensions for so long that I almost forgot how sick it felt to do both legs at a time. So I'm going to kind of switch back to that for a little bit. But anyways, a variety in your training doesn't just come from doing different exercises or different movements. It also comes from just doing the exercise differently. You could do 3 sets with the same attachment, the same weight, the same movement pattern and everything, but have a different tempo. Maybe your first set, you do nice and controlled squeezing. You squeeze really hard on the concentric portion, which is when you're fully contracted. So if let's talk about biceps. The eccentric portion is basically when the muscle is extending and stretching, and that's when the muscle is tearing. And then the concentric portion is when you're contracting the muscle and putting all the blood and nutrients and water into the muscle. And then the eccentric, you tear, you fill it up with nutrients. You tear it, you fill it up with nutrients. So every rep on the way down, the negative, they call it, the negative part of the movement is when you're actually tearing down the muscle. And then on the way up, you're pumping blood back into it when you're tearing it down again. So you can just think on leg extensions, when you're squeezing and extending, you're squeezing blood into the muscle. And then on the way down is when you're actually tearing the muscle, which is why people just slam it up and then slam the weight down and keep dropping it. The part of the movement that's actually benefiting them and growing the muscle, which is kind of backwards because you tear down the muscle in order to grow it, people skip out on, which is why people in the gym, we always see it all the time, they don't even ego lift. They're just throwing around a weight that they can't even do a singular rep without slamming the weight into the ground or slamming the machine into the rack. And it's like how loud you work out doesn't equate to positive gains. It's a net negative, as it were. So controlling the weight is how. Now, don't get me wrong. If I'm throwing around 450 or 500 pounds in the deadlift, I'm not going to necessarily gently set the bar down as if it was 100 pounds. Just simply due to the weight, it's going to be loud when I drop it. But I'm not intentionally pushing it and slamming it into the ground so the whole earth shakes. There's just no need for it. But anyways, the tempo. So maybe your first set, nice and controlled. If you're doing like biceps, you're squeezing really slow, squeeze the top, hold it for a second or two, really slow on the way down. Then maybe your second set, you're just pumping up the muscle. You're just doing really consistent fast reps, put as much blood and muscle as you can. And then maybe your third set, you're stopping halfway, holding it, and then going up and squeezing all the way down. Up halfway, hold it, and then squeeze. Doing it like that, basically, on the pushing part of any movement. So if it's lat pull downs when you're pulling it down, if it's bench when you're pushing the weight off your chest, if it's squatting when you're standing back up, if it's leg extensions when your legs are extending, if it's tricep extensions, the part of when you're contracting and extending the arm, if it's biceps, it's when you're curling, if it's shoulder press when you're pushing up, any of those movements, if you stop halfway through on the way up and just for a half a second and then you keep going, what you're doing is you're taking the momentum out of the movement, and you're not just trying to, because if I have let's say a lat pull down, if I'm just pulling and then pulling, there's a part of me that's kind of riding the momentum and the momentum is helping me get extra reps, which is good to take things close to failure. But on the way down, if I stop like about halfway, hold it for just a second, and then keep going down and squeeze, and then go up. On the way down, stop for a second, hold it, and then keep going all the way down. I'm stopping, and it's almost like a pause rep on bench. When you touch your chest, if you pause it for a second, you're not just kind of bouncing off your chest and riding the momentum, which makes the rep easier. You're actually using pure muscle to push the weight back up. Which is why if you take your max bench right now and you try to do a pause rep, you probably aren't going to get it because you're taking any momentum out of the movement. But anyways, you can increase or decrease the tempo. You can change the actual rhythm of the movement, the different angles. By simply, I can do a bicep curl in front of my arm right here. I can simply angle my arm inward and do it kind of across to my body, or I can angle it outwards and kind of do it up to my shoulder. And I'm still hitting the bicep in its entirety, but I'm kind of, I guess you could say, more or less targeting. If you're kind of going crossbody, across your chest this way, you're kind of targeting that little outer part of your bicep, a little more tension on there, even though you're still hitting your bicep in its entirety. If you're doing just a straight dumbbell curl right in front of your body, you're going to work the whole bicep, and then if you're kind of tilting it outwards, you're going to get a little more of that inward part here, kind of that little striations that you see, as it were. But what's going on back there? Your foot's dead, or went to sleep, as it were. We are pulling up to the gym here, so are you going to go inside while I finish up my video? You gotta put on a shoe. So back, really nothing too crazy. I can talk about what we do afterwards, of course, as always. But I'm gonna do. I don't really know yet, to be honest. Definitely some cable rows, definitely some pull downs, and we're gonna throw on a shit ton of weight to the point of incarceration, as it were. So a little more people, too many people here for my liking, and I prefer the gym to be dead fucking empty, not a soul in sight. But, we don't always get what we want these days. So I'll see you guys after back.